Hi everybody. This video is really more of a technical experiment than anything else because this is the first time I've ever done one of these using my iPhone with a microphone. It's kind of like one of my journal entries in that sense that I'm kind of thrashing out ideas, but this time with the camera rather than with text. And so the question was, okay, what should the topic be? I thought, well, how about journal writing? Why would anybody write a journal? And I'm just going to speak from personal experience and suggest that, at least in my case, there are two major reasons for writing a journal. The first is just to recount events so that at some future point you can say, yes, on June 18th I did this, something, blah, blah, blah. The other is to write just for the sake of writing. And I know that I have frequently read encouragement of aspiring writers just to write anything just to keep writing. Now, I'll get back to that in a second. Now, as far as the personal record aspect of keeping a journal is concerned, I'm a little skeptical of that. Again, based on personal experience, because when I think about my journal, I've been keeping a journal fairly regularly since 2004. And I can tell you, I hardly ever look at it. I will occasionally just out of curiosity to see whether any of it even makes sense. But generally, I don't go back to read it. And even fairly recent stuff, unless I'm trying to confirm that I did something on a particular date or by a particular date, I don't go back to it. Just to give you an idea, though, and this gets into the second aspect of keeping writing. I recently saved my 2022 journal, and single spaced, it was over 500 pages. That's a lot. And I don't think I will ever go back and reread all of that. It makes me think of the memoirs of the Duc de Saint-Simon, actually. My understanding is that the full version of his memoirs is 15 volumes. I don't want to ever leave anybody 15 volumes to read, so I hereby excuse anybody who might be interested. You don't have to read all of this stuff. But that gets into the second point about the exercise of writing. Now, that to me is more valuable, but it's also in some ways less important for me because I actually do that through my blog. For those of you who are familiar with my blog, I update that regularly, and it is certainly, I want to say whatever I say about the films, but it is really meant to be a writing exercise, a way of keeping my hand in, if you will. So even at that level, keeping a journal doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, so why do I do it? Well, it's partly out of habit. It is also partly to keep myself writing. It also does occasionally serve a creative purpose in the sense that in the act of writing, things will occur to me, or I might be able to use it to thrash out ideas about something I'm working on. For example, in my last video, I spent a fair amount of time writing to myself about what I needed to do, what it was supposed to accomplish, and so on. So at that level, a journal can be very useful. I'm sort of skirting an issue which is the difference between a journal and a diary. And obviously there are overlaps, but at least in my estimation, the difference between the two of them is a journal tends toward more of a record, a fairly objective record of events, whereas a diary is more personal and intimate. And my journal does include stuff that I wouldn't make public, and no, I'm not going to make them public now. So in that sense, it's more of a diary, but I have never really been interested in making a diary per se, and that just is part of my personality. That kind of thing just doesn't interest me. And I have to say that the kind of journal entry that this video is an example of used to be very common at YouTube, but I haven't seen much of that in a while. It's probably out there, but I'm not looking for it, and therefore I'm not likely to get it in my feed. So I do kind of wonder if that use of the medium is still there, and if not, why not? And I suspect part of it is that once YouTube got past its early days of providing the means of contacting people through video, that kind of wore out. Partly, I think, because most people either frankly don't have lives that are all that interesting, or they don't have the means of making their lives interesting. And so that kind of diary-like element of the online journal has kind of fallen out of use. And I have no intention of reviving it. So, on that note, I am going to sign off. If you have any questions or any comments, of course, please leave them. And as I said, this is not going to be the beginning of a habit. I'm not going to regularly be updating people about things in my life, but I had to check out my technical setup here. And so that was the real motivation. So, anyway, hope you're all doing well, and I will talk with you later.